Welcome to the 24th week after Pentecost. It is Tuesday, November the 5th, 2024. This is the Manna at the Tap podcast where we as a community actively seek the spiritual nourishment our souls crave. The daily lectionary reading we explore together is the Manna, designed to nurture our spiritual growth and provide the sustenance our souls need. I'm Gloria, your fellow traveler on this spiritual journey, and together we share insights and interpretations from these readings that enrich our spiritual lives. The opening chapter, the opening of chapter 1 of Ruth tells the tale of a family in a desperate situation of famine who leave Bethlehem, the house of bread, and they journey to Moab, the desirable land. The people of Moab are named after the eldest son of Lot by an incestuous birth. Moab soon became the burying land for Naomi. Her husband died, and then her two sons, after marrying Moabite women, also died, leaving no offspring. Naomi heard a rumor in Moab that the drought was over, the famine had ended, and there was again bread in Bethlehem. So she began the long journey back home with her two daughter-in-laws. But at the crossroads, she decided she wanted to go it alone. She entreated her daughters-in-law to return to their mother's house. Orpah was persuaded, and she left, but Ruth clung to Naomi. They journeyed together in deep grief and silence until they arrived in Bethlehem. As chapter 2 opens, two questions loom. How will the two women survive? And if they do, what hope can the future possibly offer? Ruth is determined to do whatever it takes to help them survive. So she enters a field and begins to glean. Here she meets the owner, a man named Boaz. He is kind and he offers her water and an abundant lunch, which allowed her to take the leftovers home for Naomi. When Ruth returned home with about 30 pounds of barley, Naomi thought a man took notice of Ruth and provided it for her. But Ruth told her where she was working and the name of the man she worked for. His name was Boaz. At that moment, Naomi's lamenting turned into an offering of praise to the Lord, remembering all the Lord had planned and designed for women without husbands, fathers, or sons. Boaz, Naomi said, was their family guardian redeemer. The lectionary reading today is Ruth chapter 3, verses 1 to 7. The 30 pounds of barley Ruth brought home that first day could only feed them for about 5 to 7 days. Boaz's Hesed and Yahweh's Hesed address their immediate needs, but the harvest would soon be over, which would not offer the women long-term security. At the beginning of chapter 2, Ruth initiates the conversation with Naomi. But here in chapter 3, it is Naomi who initiates the conversation and devises a plan of action. It is a sexually charged, risky plan that will take courage on the part of Naomi and Ruth. In Naomi's thinking, Ruth needs a husband and a permanent home. Boaz called Ruth a daughter, but Naomi sees the possibility of him becoming a husband and a father. Naomi is a realist. She is a woman filled with wisdom and will share her wisdom with Ruth. Her instructions to Ruth are full of ambiguous innuendo. Naomi proposes that the scene takes place at night. It will be after Boaz has worked on the threshing floor, eaten and drank. He will be tired and will lie down. Ruth is to notice where he is lying, and she will uncover his feet and lie down, and Boaz will tell her what to do. The threshing floor in Scripture is associated with prostitution, and Naomi's instructions are clearly how Ruth is to seduce Boaz. Ruth agrees to do everything her mother-in-law told her to do. But before entering the night, Ruth must obey Naomi in the daylight. Ruth is to wash, wear perfume, and dress in her best clothes. You see, Ruth has been dressed in widowhood clothing like her mother-in-law, and Naomi wants her to take them off and dress as a woman eligible for marriage. The taking off and washing were so that Ruth no longer saw herself as a Moabite, an outsider, but as a daughter of Yahweh in the community. The act of washing herself, putting on perfume and new clothing, would fulfill the words that Ruth spoke to Naomi at the crossroads. Your God will be my God. Ruth was willing to follow and obey Naomi's plan, risking her safety and her reputation. At night, she went to Boaz and lay at his feet. The story of what happened that night is the lectionary reading for tomorrow, Ruth chapter 3, verses 8 to 18.